Hey there, fam. How's it going? And welcome to an episode of the Monday Motivation. How y'all doing? Y'all had a great weekend. Y'all just learned a lot, just received a lot of word. We're just energized for the week. Yeah, I hope so. So today's word is one that's going to get you pumped up. It's going to get you motivated, but it's also going to be a reminder, and you can even call it like a call to action. And it is something that the reason why I feel like God places this into my heart, at this time was, the year's almost ending and maybe you might not be in the place that, you thought you'd be, right? I know like for a lot of people, they have like, goals they want to set out for the year and they set up on January, like, oh man, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then you start noticing now it's March, then it's July, then it's late in the month, then, right? Like we're already like less than, 5 months away from the end of the year. Like if you think about it that way, like, I don't know what time you're watching this, whether you're watching it like in November or whatever, but like here in October, like we're like right there. It's crazy how fast, 2023 has been flying by. And like I said, maybe this is not the circumstance that you thought you'd be in, but the way God put this into my heart was you can't let these circumstances, they can't change you. That's what I put down. They can't change you. You have to stay consistent even when it's hard, right? Like you can't allow what's happening around you to knock you off the path that God's already called you to do, right? And I get it. It might not be the easiest thing in the world. And, it might be a small little issue. It might be a massive issue. I don't know what you're going through, but what I can tell you is that you can't let that, affect what's happening in your life in the sense of your spiritual life and your walk with God. If he called you to go and to make these moves, and it might be scary, they might be hard, they might even be, a test, and you might feel like you're going through a process right now you didn't expect you'd be going through, or you might be going through a process that you thought you'd have already fulfilled by now, right? Maybe you thought, okay, God, you're working me through this time, I'm going through this valley, but I'm almost out. And that valley has already lasted you 8-9 months. Like that can get a little tiring. But my message for you today is don't let that affect you. And then also a flip side of it, don't get so used to that process, that like feeling of like, just constant stress that you think that's normal, right? God's called you, and I've said this, I don't know how many times, God's called you to go through the valley, not make camp in it. So you can't get so comfortable. Like I know obviously the phrase is, get comfortable being uncomfortable, but there's a process. There's a process where you fight the war and you go and you enjoy the rewards. Then you go to the next test, you fight that war, enjoy the rewards. It's not just a state of just constant stress. God wants you to go from victory to victory, which means you have to fight, but you also have to learn how to rest, right? As important as it is to fight a good fight is also to rest. Excuse me, it's also to rest, right? Like for me, like I love like, combat sports, MMA, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, all that. So these fighters, they train for a very long time. They go, sometimes, 3 up to maybe even 6 months, maybe even a year for this battle. And they give it their all. They leave it out on the canvas. They just give it all they got. Well, as important as it was to build up for that, to, put their bodies under that stress, to prepare for the war, to prepare for that massive fight and then win and get the victory, it's also as important as it is to go and rest. Now, sometimes, and I'll use an example because I saw a fight not that long ago, that this guy had been training for like 5 months, right? Boom. And the fight ended within a minute. He beat the other guy in like about a minute. So, obviously he's like, oh man, I'm going to have a quick turnaround. I'm going to go home, spend some time with my kids and my family, but then I'm going to go back into the gym. And that's cool. Like sometimes that's what happens. Like, you go and you think you're prepping for this fight and then the fight comes and you're like, oh, what? God's going to fight this one for me and he's got this. And it feels like, wow, like you were stressing for something you have to stress about, right? But then there's times where you go through it and you're like, Lord, man, that was a 5-rounder. That was a 12-rounder if you're doing boxing. Like that one was rough. That one took a lot out of me. So as important as it is to go and lead up and train for that fight, it's also very important to rest up, right? So don't get comfortable in thinking like, oh, well, this is my new normal. You know what? I'm always going to be in a state of stress. I'm always going to be under attack. I'm always going to be in this. Nah, man. Like, and know that it's a process. It's a temporary, station in which you're at. That's God using this time to mold you, to build you up, to prune you, to maybe take some things out into your life, maybe put some things into your life, right? There's some lessons you might have been learning in this process that's going to help you when you get to that next level, right? So it's like a two-parter. Like, don't let the outside circumstances, go and affect you. And then don't get so used to this constant attack that you think that's normal. No, like you're not supposed to always be sick. You're not supposed to always go and, feel like you're stressing for money. You shouldn't always be thinking like, oh, when are my kids gonna go and, go back into the word of God? Are they gonna go and, is my family member gonna come and just, renew their walk with Christ? I'm trying to put it in a simple term because I could stress this out for a very long time, but that would be something for a different time. But like the basics, I know God wanted me just to hit on this first, was just don't get used to that feeling of just always being under attack, right? Because God calls you that your heads and not tails, right? Above and not beneath, right? We've known that multiple times. I've said that here multiple times. So yes, be prepared and get used to being uncomfortable and learning and like growing. But know that once you grow out of this one spot and you move on to the next level, it's also, you're allowed to enjoy that. You're allowed to go and sit back and be like, you know what? Wow, God, like, let me, just sit in this presence, in this peace, in this restful state of rest for a while before I go to that next step, right? So that's what I want to tell you guys is that, keep striving for greatness, keep pushing. And I get it because like I am one that like I love going, I love creating all this content and I love getting after it and putting the work in and if I have to say no to certain things I will and there's a certain piece of sacrifice that we all make, whether it's creating content, whether it's at your job, whether it's whatever you're thing you're doing that you dedicate all your time and you want it to grow and get better. There's some certain sacrifice you have to cut out. But in the same breath, guys, there's times where I'll just kick back. I'm like, you know what? Today's the day where I'm just gonna relax. I'm gonna spend time with my family. I'm gonna go see a movie. I'm gonna go get some food. I won't even open up my laptop. Like, there's also times, there's a little bit for everything, right? I've talked about it in other podcasts. There's a time for everything. So yes, grind, get after it, hustle, just give it your best, empty empty your buckets every single day into whatever you're doing, but then allow yourself to recoup. You're allowed to do that. If no one's told you that, if you're thinking like, oh, you have to always be the one fighting, always doing, the one giving your all and no one else. No, it's allowed. You're allowed to go take a step back and be like, okay, I'm good, right? It's okay. I promise. It's all right. So just take that as a Monday motivation, learn from that, use it. I know I applied to myself. I applied to myself the other day because I was just grinding really hard and God's like, yo, relax. You got this. Take a breath. Like, take the evening off. I was like, all right, God, let's get after it. And I spent time with my family. It was awesome. It was a beautiful day. Now I feel just super recharged and ready to go and giving you guys great content, So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of these talks. I love you. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Keep killing it. Keep rocking it out. Keep after all the wins and all the victories. Stay safe. I'll see you next week and make it the best day ever.